In the cold halls of the Galactic Council, station orbiting the red moon of Scythera, stood a single human named Captain Elias Ward. He was the first of his kind to ever be invited to the Assembly of Minds, a gathering where telepathic species from across the galaxy shared thoughts directly instead of words. The air was filled with invisible waves of mental chatter, and though the humans could not sense it, the aliens regarded it as music. The council had debated for cycles whether humans should be admitted. They were seen as primitive, emotional, violent, and worst of all, unpredictable. But the High Seer of the Telepathic Order, Liratha of the Vin, insisted on meeting one herself. Her kind could see into any mind, uncover every truth, every secret, every fear. None could hide from her. She wanted to understand what made humans so resistant to telepathic influence. Elias stood calm as the tall silver-skinned alien approached. Her eyes glowed faint blue, and her long fingers shimmered with neural energy. She spoke through the council link. "We mean no harm, human Elias Ward. May I touch your mind?" Elias nodded without fear. "Go ahead," he said quietly. Liratha reached out and pressed her fingers gently against his temple. The connection formed instantly. Her mind flooded with impressions and sensations of what it was to be human. But then something happened that no telepath had ever experienced before. Instead of finding clarity, she found chaos. A storm of thoughts, memories, emotions tangled together with such intensity that it burned like fire. There was love and hate, joy and grief, hope and despair, all crashing at once like waves in a storm. The more she tried to understand, the deeper she fell into it. She saw battles fought for freedom, tears shed for family, laughter shared with friends. She felt the heartbeat of an entire species that refused to surrender to anything, even fate itself. Then she screamed. Her body convulsed as she was thrown backward, the glow in her eyes flaring and then going dark. The great High Seer of the Telepathic Order collapsed onto the marble floor of the council chamber unconscious. The alien delegates gasped. The telepathic chorus fell silent. None had ever seen a Vin collapse from a mind touch. Elias stood frozen, his heart pounding. He had no idea what had happened, but he knew one thing with certainty. The human mind was not something to be read. It was something to be survived.
The council chamber remained frozen for several minutes after Liratha fell. Healers rushed forward, glowing threads of psychic energy weaving from their hands as they tried to stabilize her mind. Elias was pulled aside by guards, though he resisted. He kept his eyes fixed on the alien queen. Finally, her body stirred. The blue glow returned to her eyes, faint but alive. She looked around with confusion and fear, which none had ever seen from her before. The council demanded answers, but she raised a trembling hand and silenced them all. Her gaze found Elias again. He stood tall, hands behind his back, face calm, but his mind still storming from what he had witnessed. Liratha slowly approached him again. This time she did not touch him. She only spoke. "The human mind," she said in a weak voice, "is a labyrinth without walls. I saw within him pain that does not break him, and joy that does not fade. They live surrounded by chaos, yet they thrive in it." The council murmured in disbelief. The telepaths of other races had always considered emotion to be weakness. To feel so deeply was to lose focus of logic and order. But Liratha shook her head. "They are not weak," she said. "They are something new, something dangerous." Elias did not understand all their talk of energy and mental structure, but he saw the fear in their eyes. He had seen that look before in soldiers on the battlefield right before they realized the enemy could not be broken. The council decided to suspend all human invitations until the matter was studied. The session ended in silence. Liratha was escorted to her quarters by attendants, but she could still feel the echo of that human storm inside her mind. It was not leaving. It whispered to her in dreams. It showed her images of oceans and skies and laughter and war. It was alive. That night she looked at the stars from her window and whispered softly to herself, "What are you really, human?" And somewhere deep in his chamber, Elias sat alone, staring at his hands, wondering what she had seen inside him that even he could not understand. The experiment had changed them both, and the galaxy would soon learn what it meant to meet a mind that could not be read. Weeks passed. Lyratha did not return to the council. Rumors spread that her mind had been infected by human thought. Some called it madness, others called it awakening. When Elias was summoned again, he was brought to her private chamber. The lights were dim and the air hummed with strange energy. Lyratha stood waiting, her once pure silver skin now shimmered with faint golden streaks. "You changed," she said. But the voice was different, warmer, more human. "Maybe you did too," he replied. She smiled. The gesture was almost human now. "I touched your mind and found something my species has sought for centuries. Freedom. We live bound by the laws of thought. But you humans, you are free even when chained." Elias felt uneasy. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, stepping closer, "that your kind cannot be controlled. And that frightens the galaxy." A surge of energy burst between them as her psychic field flared again, but this time it did not harm her. Instead, it connected them both. Elias saw her memories, her world, her pain. She saw his humanity, his childhood, his wars, his love. Their minds blended for a heartbeat. And in that instant, something impossible happened. The telepath and the human became one thought. When they broke apart, the chamber lights flickered and the air rippled like water. Lyratha was gasping but smiling. "Now I understand," she whispered. "The human mind does not destroy. It transforms." The council never knew what truly happened in that room. They only knew that when Lyratha emerged, she declared a new law. Humans were not to be studied. They were to be respected. Elias returned to Earth changed. Sometimes he dreamed of stars that sang and a queen with silver and gold eyes, whispering through the void. And somewhere far beyond the edge of human space, the telepathic queen of the Vind stared at the same stars and smiled, knowing she had touched something greater than power. She had touched the human soul.